Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today we're going to talk about Dungeons & Dragons 5th Edition, and we're specifically going to talk about the Hickman. We're going to talk about Dragonlance creators, air quote, new Dungeons & Dragons 5th Edition setting, Skyraiders, and I'm going to add the question: does this matter? All right, does Dungeons & Dragons Dragonlance creators new Dungeons & Dragons 5th Edition setting matter? All right, there we go. Let's get into it. All right. So first of all, I won't bury the lead. I'm going to tell you right away, it does not matter in the least. It is a very interesting, kind of a test subject of what do you do to move the needle in tabletop role-playing games today. This does not move the needle. It is so, I think it's, I know this is going to sound harsh, but I just feel like this is, there's useless and there's worse than useless, right? I think this is worse than useless. All right, so I'll get in and I'll explain why. All right. So, first of all, this was a big story this weekend. A lot of people were, excited, and there was a lot of coverage of this. I love that. I love that there's a lot of people talking about this, because we should be having these conversations. Let's just make sure that we pay attention to the answers, right? So, first of all, what's happening? Let me define it, okay? Because I think this was massively misreported this weekend, right? It was not reported correctly, all right? So, let's talk about that. Why was it not reported correctly? Well, I can tell you why it wasn't reported correctly. The reason why is they were saying, hey, the Dragonlance creators are creating a new Dungeons & Dragons setting. That is 100% wrong, in my opinion, okay? So first of all, who are the Dragonlance creators? They're not the Hickmans, right? Skyraiders, this new setting, right, is going to be created by, and this is everything I read, right, from Tracy Hickman and Laura Hickman. Tracy and Laura are married, okay? And they're the Hickmans, right? They are not the Dungeons & Dragons creators. They're not the Dragonlance creators. Who are the Dragonlance creators? The Dragonlance creators are Tracy Hickman and Margaret Weiss. They are the Dragonlance creators. And Margaret Weiss is not attached to this, right? So that does not mean that this is a Dragonlance creator product if you're missing half the Dragonlance creators, all right? So one, I don't really consider this a Dragonlance creators project, right? This is a Hickman project, right? Now, why didn't they say Hickman project? Well, the reality is, I don't think Hickman's ever made anything without Margaret Weiss that anybody gives two rats about, right? And so this is a Hickman. So first of all, this is a Hickman John, right? And I'm not sure anybody's really super excited about that. Second, they said this is a new Dungeons & Dragons setting. Absolutely 100% it is not a new Dungeons & Dragons setting, right? So what exactly is this, right? This is a new fantasy setting that will be 5e compatible, right? That is not a new Dungeons & Dragons setting, okay? And so let's break it down, right? Matthew Mercer brings out the Tal'Doria campaign book, right? Same size, same bat channel, same bat time, same bat channel, right? Hardback with 250 pages, full color, right? But it's not a Dungeons & Dragons product. It's just some 5e compatible nonsense, right? Nobody cared about the Tal'Doria guide that Matthew Mercer did. Now, let's talk about Explorer's Guide to Wildmount. That's a real setting. That's Exandria. That's got D&D on the spine. That's got the D&D, red ampersand, real deal Dungeons & Dragons setting, right? That matters, right? And this Hickman Skyraider nonsense ain't going to have none of that. There ain't going to be no D&D logo on this thing, right? So, Explorer's Guide to Alexandria is a real, actual D&D setting. So 5e compatible. Any fool who can use a word processor can create a 5e compatible setting, and trust me, a lot have, right? So Hickman creating a 5e compatible setting means about jack all of nothing, right? This is nothing to get excited about, right? And so, because the reality is, this does not have the blessings of Wizards of the Coast. This does not have the blessings of Hasbro, and this doesn't even have the blessings of all of the. This isn't even coming from the Dragonlance creators, right? This is coming from one Dragonlance. From I don't know. I know Tracy Hickman was involved in the creation of the Dragonlance. I don't know if Laura Hickman was. I don't know. But I do know this is missing Margaret Weiss. So you can't. So I don't think it's fair to say Dragonlance creators when half of them are missing, right? This would be like if Netflix said, "Hey, we're doing a live action Avatar: Last Airbender," and half the team was gone, right? But half the team was signed on, right? So I think a lot of people skipped these very important points. They did not talk about these points when it was covered this weekend, and I think that's really unwise. This is not a Dragonlance, in my opinion. This is not, in my humble opinion, this is absolutely not a Dragonlance creators, created setting. It's half of the Dragonlance creators with one half gone, right? And then in addition to this is not a real setting. This is just a 5e compatible book, which you can find by the hundreds, if not by the thousands, right? On itch.io, on DriveThru RPG, and DM's Guild, frankly, right? So this is nothing special. And I think it got a lot of hype just because it had a Dragonlance creator connected to it. The other reason why I'm not excited about it is the Skyraider parts, right? Skyships, that ain't D&D. I love skyships, right? I think they're very cool, but it just, the more I get to love Dungeons and Dragons, the more I realize, the more you are not adhering to the Lord of the Rings, formula, right? You're really pretty far off from Dungeons and Dragons. So everything about this screams bog standard, itch.io splat that doesn't matter. That's my take, all right? I don't think this book is going to matter. It's not going to move the needle. It doesn't really bring anything too new or exciting to the market, right? And I just really don't believe for 1 second. Oh, and then we forgot to talk about the worst part of this, right? You're dealing with some ancient dude, right? So here's the other thing is, right? So Tracy Hickman old, right? So is Laura Hickman, right? Twitter has told us, old people on Twitter, and this new project is going to get talked about on Twitter. Is Tracy Hickman ready to survive the Twitter storm? No, he is not. Absolutely not. He already started Twitter drama less than 3 months ago, throwing shade at Critical Role, right? Throwing shade at Matthew Mercer, a fellow Dungeons and Dragons author. This dude, man, it's not him. It's just anybody. If you over 60 and you got business on Twitter, that is a formula for destruction. And if you think I'm just making this up, just look back on Twitter over the last bit, right? All that's my opinion. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Let me know in the comments below. Please consider liking and subscribing, and have a wonderful millennium.